The scorching sun beat down on the dusty battlefield as chaos reigned in every direction. Smoke curled into the sky, mingling with the scent of gunpowder and burning metal, and the groans of the wounded punctuated the otherwise deafening silence of destruction. Amidst this chaos, a field hospital, a cluster of white tents that had seen far too much death, stood as a fragile sanctuary. Inside, a woman moved with calm precision, her hands steady, her eyes sharp, her heart racing. She was the last line of hope for the injured soldiers who stumbled through the flaps of the tent, some screaming, some barely clinging to life. No one could have guessed that the woman they called Nurse Riley carried more than medical expertise. She carried secrets, resilience, and a past they would never see coming. Riley's hands were slick with blood, not just her own, but from dozens of Marines and Navy SEALs who had been injured in a sudden ambush. She moved from stretcher to stretcher with a rhythm honed by years of training, years they didn't know she had spent in a uniform far more formidable than the nurse scrubs she wore now. Every cut she sutured, every vein she cannulated, every hand she held was a lifeline, not just for the wounded, but for herself, a reminder that her purpose had always been clear: save lives, no matter the cost. Her heart thumped violently as another wave of soldiers entered the tent, their faces pale, some twisted in pain, others in disbelief at what they had just survived. She glanced around, checking vitals, moving quickly, efficiently. A soldier moaned beside her, his chest bleeding heavily. Without hesitation, Riley pressed the dressing over the wound, her voice low but firm, urging him to stay with her. Her mind raced, not with fear, but with calculation. In moments like this, hesitation could mean death. And then it happened. The quiet before the storm shattered. The flap of the tent ripped open violently, and armed men, faces obscured, weapons raised, stormed in. Panic erupted like wildfire. Soldiers tried to grab their rifles, medics shouted, patients screamed. Riley froze for only a fraction of a second before instinct took over. She dove toward the nearest fallen SEAL, dragging him behind a makeshift divider, pressing her hand against his wound. Her heart pounded, but her mind was clear. The attackers moved with deadly precision, searching for something, or someone. Riley realized immediately that they had no idea who they were dealing with. Most would see her as just another nurse, vulnerable and unarmed. But she wasn't unarmed. Not really. Not in the way it mattered. She had trained for moments like this for years, in ways these men couldn't imagine. Her calm, collected movements betrayed none of the storm within her as she assessed the threat and silently planned her next move. She had joined the Marines right out of high school, driven by a fierce sense of duty and an unshakable belief that she could make a difference. Combat training, survival skills, weapons proficiency, it had all become second nature. But she had chosen a quieter battlefield this time, one where her skills could heal instead of destroy. She had thought her past would remain hidden behind the sterile walls of the field hospital. Until now. The SEALs, seasoned warriors themselves, scrambled to respond, but they were caught off guard by the sudden violence within the hospital. Riley moved swiftly, her hands alternating between medical tasks and tactical maneuvers. One attacker aimed too close, and Riley instinctively twisted his wrist, using his own momentum to throw him off balance and shield a bleeding soldier behind her. No one saw it coming, not the SEALs, not the attackers, not even the frightened medics around her. Time seemed to stretch as the chaos unfolded. Riley's mind worked at lightning speed, triaging the wounded, calculating movements, anticipating the attacker's next steps. A young SEAL, barely 19, looked at her with wide eyes, as if recognizing a force he had never expected to see in a nurse. There was something different about her, something more than just skill with a scalpel or courage in the face of danger. Her presence was commanding, unyielding, yet deeply human. Amid the smoke, the shouting, the cries, Riley found herself face to face with the leader of the armed men. He raised his weapon, his eyes cold, scanning for threats. She didn't flinch. Instead, she met his gaze with an intensity forged by years of survival and training. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them. He underestimated her. That single misjudgment would prove to be his undoing. With a burst of movement, Riley disarmed him, twisting, leveraging his weight, and pinning him to the ground. Other attackers hesitated, caught off guard by the sudden ferocity of someone they thought was defenseless. Seizing the moment, she rallied the wounded SEALs and Marines, guiding them to safety, using both authority and compassion to keep them moving while preventing panic from spreading. As the adrenaline surged through her, memories flashed. Her first deployment, the long nights of field operations in hostile territories, the friends she had lost, the lessons she had learned in silence. All of it had prepared her for this moment. Yet, even as she fought to protect the lives around her, a deeper truth began to emerge, the respect, the awe in the eyes of the SEALs as they realized the woman they had trusted as a combat nurse was not just trained in medicine, but was a fully trained Marine with every ounce of courage and skill that entailed. The tide turned quickly after that. The attackers, realizing they had miscalculated, retreated, leaving behind stunned survivors. The SEALs and medics, shaken but alive, stared at Riley in a new light. The tent, once just a place of healing, had become a battlefield, and she had been the one to hold the line. As the dust settled, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. Soldiers she had treated just moments before now looked at her with awe and gratitude, their eyes reflecting the silent understanding that she was something extraordinary, a guardian whose courage had saved them all. Riley sank onto a chair, exhausted but unbroken. The adrenaline that had driven her moments before now ebbed, leaving a profound sense of relief mixed with humility. She looked around at the faces of the men she had protected, at the young SEAL who now hesitated to speak, at the medics who had witnessed the impossible. In that moment, the walls she had built around her past, the carefully guarded identity of a Marine, felt both unnecessary and freeing. She had been revealed not by choice, but by necessity, and the respect she had long hoped to earn had been given freely, without words. The emotional weight of the day pressed on her. She thought of her parents, who had raised her to be resilient, of her instructors, who had pushed her to excel beyond what she thought possible, and of the countless Marines who had gone before her, teaching her what it meant to serve something greater than oneself. Her path had been arduous, filled with pain, loss, and sacrifice, but it had led her here, to this singular moment where courage, skill, and heart intersected. The young SEAL approached her, voice trembling, finally finding the words, gratitude, awe, and something more profound than either could articulate. Riley simply nodded, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. There was no need for speeches, the moment was understood by everyone present. She had given everything to protect them, and in return, they had witnessed the embodiment of courage. Her mind drifted briefly to the wounded soldiers still recovering in other tents, to the families who would never know how close their loved ones had come to death, and to the quiet hope that perhaps, in some way, her actions would ripple outward, inspiring others to act with bravery and compassion when the world seemed at its darkest. It was in that quiet, after the chaos had passed, that Riley realized the true power of her presence. Not the power of a weapon, not the authority of rank, but the simple, undeniable force of someone who refused to stand aside when others were in need. The field hospital had been a place of vulnerability, and she had transformed it into a bastion of courage. Her identity as a Marine had been revealed, yes, but what mattered more was the heart that had guided every decision, every movement, every life she had touched. She rose, weary but unbroken, and moved among the injured, offering reassurance, a steady hand, and a voice that carried the calm certainty of someone who had faced far worse than they could imagine. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, Riley knew that her journey was far from over. She would continue to serve, to heal, and to protect, not for recognition, but because it was the only way she knew how to live. Her story, now witnessed by those who had doubted, had become a testament to resilience, courage, and the quiet, enduring power of the human spirit. The Navy SEALs, once unaware of her true identity, now looked at her with a reverence that went beyond ranks and titles. They had seen, in the heart of battle, what it truly meant to be fearless, selfless, and unwavering. If this story has touched your heart, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet heroes who walk among us every day. As Riley continued her rounds, offering comfort to those who had seen death up close, she understood something profound: courage was not always loud. Sometimes, it was quiet. Sometimes, it wore the guise of a nurse tending to wounds, of a marine moving with precision, of a human being refusing to yield in the face of terror. And sometimes, it changed lives simply by showing up, standing firm, and refusing to leave anyone behind. The day ended not with fanfare, but with quiet victories: the wounded stabilized, the attackers gone, the field hospitals standing firm. Riley, her uniform now streaked with the evidence of both medicine and battle, allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. She had done what she had set out to do, not for glory, not for acknowledgement, but because it was right. Before you go, leave a comment sharing how this story moved you, or a moment when someone's courage inspired you in unexpected ways. Your words can honor those quiet heroes in your life. The sun had fully set, the battlefield quieted, and in that stillness, Riley's heart swelled with the knowledge that she had not just survived the chaos, she had transformed it. In revealing her true self, she had given others hope, courage, and the enduring reminder that even in the darkest moments, one person's bravery can illuminate the way forward. And so, in the aftermath of terror, in the midst of wounds and fear, a combat nurse revealed as a Marine had shown the world what it truly meant to fight, not with guns alone, but with heart, with steadfast resolve, and with an unwavering commitment to life itself. If this story touched your heart, please engage with the video. Like, share, and comment to honor those who serve, heal, and protect in ways we may never fully see.